give you guys some opening remarks. There's no assigned seating here, gentlemen, so just find you a seat. There's 2 mics. Let me start by saying how pleased I am with the turnout today. This is the first time that the FACS has been... Oh, that's fun. Okay, this is the first time the FACS has done a candidate forum, and I wasn't sure this morning when I woke up if we would have 5 people here or 500 people here. I think the turnout's pretty good though, and I think that says a lot of good things about, one, the need for a forum like this, and number 2, the engagement, the level of engagement of voters in Brazoria County. So thank you guys so much for being here. As I've said before, I'm Yvonne Mintz. I'm editor and publisher of the FACS newspaper. Many of you know me. I've been with the paper for 22 years. We put out a daily newspaper, and we also put out 3 magazine titles with different frequency over the year. I hope you've all gotten a chance to fill out our quick survey. We have one there, and write your information on it. After these guys are finished and before we start the Q&A with the House District 25 candidates, we'll be doing a drawing for the gift basket that's out there. So thank you for doing that. To start, I want to give a round of applause for all of the candidates who showed up. Not just the ones that were anybody who puts their name on a ballot and sticks their neck out with the opportunity for the hope that they can represent people in elected office deserves our respect, and they deserve our... I want to thank the families of the candidates. I know firsthand how difficult that can be. I grew up as the daughter of a candidate who was schlepped all around Harris County at this chicken dinner and that chicken dinner, at this fundraiser and that fundraiser, and I know that it's tough on the families. So thank you for sharing your loved ones with us. We very much appreciate you as well. All right, one last thank you. I want to thank the City of Lake Jackson for allowing us the use of this facility. I don't know if you guys know, but the City Council voted to waive the rental fees for this facility for us to have this facility. All right, I'm going to go over a couple of ground rules, and these gentlemen are quite aware of them. We did decide to have a timer, okay, and that's this gentleman right here, Michael Morris from the FACS. He is going to, at the 2-minute mark, we won't have a timer for your brief introductions that we asked you to keep for a minute, but at the 1-minute mark, he's going to raise a yellow placard. And at the 2-minute mark, when your time has expired, he'll raise a red placard, okay? That's for each question. Now, we hope you don't take the whole 2 minutes, okay? There is no requirement to take the entire 2 minutes, okay? If you can get the question answered quicker than that, by all means, please do, because then we can move on to another question, and we can get more questions in, okay? But we do feel like we better have some kind of a guideline just in case. All right? Last thing, this rule is for the audience. I want again to thank you for coming, and I want this to be a welcoming exchange of ideas for these candidates, okay? Applause is very much appreciated. Loud boos and catcalls from the audience, not so much, okay? These guys and the other candidates trusted me that we would provide a forum that would be respectful and in the spirit of camaraderie, and that's what we would like to uphold. So please help me with that. I would appreciate it. And with that, I'm ready to kick off. Let's start with our introductions. We can start with Bo Stallman. Probably. There's a button. There you go.
Good evening. My name is Bo Stallman, and I'm obviously running to be your next sheriff. I'll start off with a little bit of history about me. After graduating from Danbury High School, I joined the United States Marine Corps and married my wife, Gina, which is probably, if you ask her, she'll tell you, to the life's best decision I ever made. After returning home from the Marine Corps, I was accepted into DPS and served here with the Department of Public Safety as a state trooper. And during that time, I earned both my bachelor's and my master's degree in in criminal justice, leadership, and management. In 2013, I accepted a position with the Brazoria County DA's office as a criminal investigator where I'm currently employed. A little bit about why I'm doing this and why I want to be your next sheriff. This county is very dear to my family and I, as we are lifelong residents, and we decided to come back home here and raise our family here because it is a safe, and we want to continue this to be a safe place. We're deeply involved in this community with many civic organizations, and we also want this county to continue to be safe for our kids and our grandkids.
Move on to Randy Ryan.
Okay. If the lights are blinding y'all, I'm sorry, I didn't wear a hat. I'll give you a second to put on your sunglasses. Like I said, my name is Randy Ryan. I am running for the office of sheriff. And I want to thank the facts for putting on this particular forum, because this is one of the few that I have run into across the county that we actually get to speak, and there will be some question and answer, which I think is great. So thanks to the facts for doing that. Also wish to thank my wife, because without her blessing for the last 36,000 blissful years, life for me would have been a whole lot tougher. So I want to thank my wife for that part. Her name is Shelley Runkle Ryan. We have one son named Justin. He's 31 years old and is a chemist for Shell Oil Company. So she must have done something right. I've been in law enforcement for 40 years, and 38 of those years have been with the Brazoria County Sheriff's Office. I've enjoyed that time because traveling throughout the county, I got to meet a lot of good people. I've also had to search for a lot of bad people throughout the county and outside the Brazoria County. The last 14 years of my time with the Brazoria County Sheriff's Office, I was in the administration area working closely with Sheriff Wagner and Chief Deputy Atkins, working on the budgets and the personnel and supervising our communications division, our warrant civil division, and our records division, and also our departmental bookkeepers. I have a master's peace officer's license with many hours of specialized training in various colleges like Texas A&M, College of the Mainland, Brazosport College, Allen Junior College, and the University of Houston downtown. I'm also a graduate of the FBI's LEADA program, which is a Law Enforcement Executive Development Association trilogy program, in which they're specializing in training supervisors, leadership, command, and executive leadership. My community involvement started a long, long time ago, and as such, I'm a proud president of the statewide organization of the Texas Narcotics Officers Association. I'm also past president of the Danbury Rotary. I served on Angleton City Council for 2 years and served as the Angleton Mayor for 6. I served as the chair of the fundraising efforts for BAC, which is the Brazoria County Association for Children with Handicap. I currently serve on the Brazoria County Child Assessment Center board. I'm running for sheriff because I want to continue my service to the citizens of Brazoria County. I really believe I know how this job is supposed to be done, and we got a lot of forward thinking to do, and I think I am the candidate that can bring that forward because I know where we've been in the past, I know where we're at now, and I know where we need to go. And I think I can work with our Commissioner's Court for the funding to make all of that happen. So I appreciate your time and your support on my endeavor to be sheriff of Brazoria County. Thank you.
Captain Richard Foreman.
Personality. Hello, everybody. My name is Richard Foreman, and I'm here to ask for your vote for the office of sheriff. I've been with the sheriff's office for 28 years. Before I started with the sheriff's office, I worked for the Department of Corrections in Roche Sharon and got promoted to sergeant and lieutenant. And when I left there, I was a field lieutenant at the Darrington unit in the the 80s. And if you ever worked there, you knew what the 80s were. Came to sheriff's office and I started in the jail as the lowest paid position in the jail, which was still higher what I was making at the state, by the way, as a lieutenant. And I moved to the patrol division and got to work as an FTO, which I truly enjoyed. Picked up an opportunity to start teaching at the Brazoria Community College. I'm still an instructor there. Started that in '92, and also served on the advisory board for the Brazoria Community College Law Enforcement Academy. And I have served twice as an interim academy coordinator. Education is extremely important to me when it comes down to this craft. Moved from patrol to the criminal investigations division, which was a challenge for me, coming off of graveyards on the street, and went to narcotics for a short period of time, which I will tell you, you can probably tell by looking at me, I was not a real good narcotics officer. But I was assigned to the DPS task force out of Texas City, and I came back and went right back into criminal investigations, and Sheriff King retired, and Sheriff Wagner took over. And Sheriff Wagner, in 2005, January, gave me the position of patrol captain, where I take care of the patrol group and our mental health group. And we have some fantastic employees there. And there's not a lot of reason for change, but we have to evolve. And I think that's what I want to stress to everybody. The two sheriffs I have worked for have done fantastic work, but we have to evolve. The Port of Freeport has brought us a lot of economy and a lot of new citizens, and we need to evolve so we can continue to provide the service that people have come accustomed to. And we need to bring in some technology that's going to assist us in some crime prevention, and we need to educate our employees to the new standard that our criminal justice system is demanding upon us. And I'm going to say this: we need to explore civil service. Our employees need that opportunity to feel safe at their job. They need that in place so that you get the best experience, the most trained person to show up at your home and you call the sheriff's office and you need help. We all deserve that, right? So, if you are an employee, you are here, know this: when I'm in sheriff, your employment is safe. You are all worthy. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to start with a question from our friend, a longtime friend, and very active in this community. His name's Juan Longoria, and he asked very simply, I'm going to start with you, Bo. He asked very simply, why do you want me to vote for you? Not why should I vote for you? Why do you want me to vote for you?
So why do I want you to vote for me as opposed to why should you?
Either way.
That's a great question.
Yeah, I'd like to phrase it.
To me, it's kind of the same question. And I would say, because I am the most qualified candidate, and also none of my most qualified candidate, but I am in here for the long haul. I want to make decisions that will prepare us for the future down the road as this growth is coming. I am the one that will be here the entire time, and I will also be going through that growth with you. The other candidates, I feel, are probably on the latter part of their career, and sometimes when you're towards the end, maybe your decisions don't exist with that. So that's why I want you to vote for me, because I want to invest in you. If you invest in me, I'm certainly going to invest in you and your future here in Brazoria County.
We'll kick it to you next, Captain.
I sure hope I'm not at the latter part of my career. Because although that I've got quite a few years of service, 38 years of service in Brazoria County. I'm not that old. Okay? Wanda, I want you to vote for me. You know what? It's a simple question, but it's hard. Right? I've been at the sheriff's office 28 years, and you have to have a passion to go every day. You have to have a passion when people don't like you, to go up there and do the work that they deserve. And I never gave up on the sheriff's office, even during the bad days. And some of you that in this room may remember some bad days, right? I never gave up on the sheriff's office. The reason I want you to vote for me is this: when you vote for me, I have the passion to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning. I still have the passion to run into the hallways with the young people who work for me and help them do their work. That's ugly work that you don't want to hear about. I still have that passion. I still have the passion to tell you the truth. Every time you ask me the question, I have the passion to do the research, to find the answers when I don't know the answers, and to be transparent. And I know some folks don't like me. My wife did not like me the first time she met me, but she's been married to me for 36 years. She's in back here. I've got to introduce her while I have to do that. And you need representation like that, and our agency is used to having leadership like that. Thank you.
Wow, I didn't know my career was ending either. Thanks, man. Yeah, but there was a reason I retired. It was financially better for me at that point. You know, I really want this job, and the reason I want it is because, number one, I'm not ready to give up. I did retire, but it was with the county's particular retirement system. I would actually make more money retired than I was when I went to work. Now, that may sound strange to you, but it's the truth. I retired, and actually my check that I get sitting at home for doing nothing except what my wife tells me to do is bigger than what it was when I went to work. So that being said, it's like, okay, that was the big deal on that one. And I really felt that by the time I got ready to run for sheriff, it was just me. I'm not saying nothing about these guys, but it was, my passion, my heart is that I didn't feel it was right for me to be running around in your truck, on your gasoline, politicking. And that was just me. That's the way I believe. But I really believe that our next sheriff needs to work closely with all the current employees to find their strengths and their weaknesses, and then capitalize on their strengths, and then work on fixing their weaknesses. Our next sheriff will work closely with the Commissioner's Court for the funding to do everything we think we need to do within reason, because all of that brings about potential tax increase if we go out and start spending money we don't need to. And our next sheriff will have to have the knowledge to know where we came from, where we're at, and where we're going, and how to get there. I believe I do have that knowledge, and I really think that's why I want you to vote for me. Let me continue the job of doing what I was doing. Thank you.
We're actually going to stay with you, Mayor.
Okay.
I'm trying to skip it around so not everybody gets the question first every time.
Okay.
Y'all keep me honest, though, if I forget to ask a candidate the question. Okay, next question. I'd like to ask the sheriff's candidates their stance on treatment and care of offenders with mental illness. What resources would you dedicate to mental health, and what would you change about arrest policy concerning those who suffer from mental illness?
That is, mental health issues are something that is, it's almost like a catch-22. First of all, we do not have enough facilities in this county to take care of our mental health issues. We've had a large influx of people coming into the area, and with those people coming in, I mean, obviously there's issues. You've got a bunch of men that are down here that have their wives and family are elsewhere, and they're down here. you know, that creates a little bit of a problem. As far as the arrest of people with mental health, that's the worst thing we need to be doing is arresting them. But unfortunately, I don't know the actual number of beds now, but there used to be 20 beds in area hospitals that were assigned for people from Brazoria County. 20 beds, and I don't think the number has increased any. We fill that up in no time flat, and our mental health deputies spend a lot of time doing research and trying to find places to take these people with mental health issues. And sometimes there's nothing else that can be done with them except to file a criminal complaint on them, because they most times have created some small minor infraction of the law. You file the criminal complaint, we put them in our jail, and we keep them there long enough till they can find a bed so they can get them out of there. Because unfortunately, we just don't have time to babysit them on the outside. So that is just something that we need to work diligently with our Commissioners Court and our state representatives. We've got some new ones that are probably going to be coming in. We need help with this particular issue. We can't all do it from a local level. Thank you.
Okay, loaded question, all right. The Sandra Bland Act that was passed a couple of years ago made a whole bunch of mandates. One of the mandates is a diversion for prisoners that are going to come to jail and how you get them out of the criminal justice system into hospitals. This county has 0 mental health hospitals, 0. We historically stay in the top 5 positions in suicides per capita in the state of Texas. This is our county. Every time there's a suicide, it destroys families. Indigent people, when it comes to insurance, cannot go to the hospitals you see on commercials, okay? Unless they give us an indigent bed that they're willing to donate, and we usually run into about 20 beds at a time that we can get our hands on when we do our diversion, because the mental health provider in your county is the Gulf Coast Center. Years back, the sheriff put the Gulf Coast Center in the jail to help process and identify those people so that we can divert them and get them to those hospitals. But when they have no insurance, we struggle with that. We need to show some leadership in inviting a hospital to come down here so we can provide those services to people. And because when we do not get them their medication and we do not get them their counseling, what occurs is they either create victims or they become victims. That does not say a whole lot about us. We're failing at that. And I'm going to tell you something. When they don't get their treatment, they find ways for treatment. That's the reason your DWI rates are so high. Your narcotics possession cases are so high. It's called self-medication. And I'm standing on the soapbox. I'm sorry.
When it comes to mental health, this is a very important and topic that I'm very passionate about. As a growing county, obviously we're going to see the growing population in our mental health. It's certainly a crisis here in our society today. As your next sheriff, I will ensure that we will make sure that our officers and our employees take continual education to make sure that we are able to identify the individuals with an illness and we can properly respond to them appropriately. 28% of the population of the jail staff currently needs some type of mental health resource. 28%. And that could be from medication to therapy services or whatever that may be, but that's a large number. After we fill the current vacancies at the sheriff's office, we're also going to want to expand in the mental health division. I can assure you that no one candidate here on this panel is as passionate about mental health as I am. Not only have I seen it at a professional level, but I've also seen it on a daily basis at home with my son, Dylan. And I also know the challenges that these families face in order to receive the resources from the state or from Gulf Coast, like Mr. Foreman said. It's very challenging. And he also made a good point about the Sandra Bland Act. Our legislators put in place more stricter laws for us, but yet they didn't give us the resources to help provide for the mental health. And I think that Governor Abbott has, he's going to try to push for a bill for like $5 billion to the state for these resources, but that still yet has to happen. So, but yes, we will continue to work on the mental health crisis, and we will always be a challenge, but we're certainly going to put our efforts towards there. And no one here would be more passionate about it than myself.
We're going to start with you on this one, Captain. The sheriff is responsible for more than 800 inmates in the jail per night, as well as almost 400 employees, all right? All right. As well as almost 400 employees and a budget of about $40 million. What experience do you have managing a budget and supervising employees? In short, what qualifies you for this job?
Well, I wish the budget was $40 million.
Is it not? Okay.
The hardest thing to do is to manage a whole bunch of type A personalities, and that's what our craft invites, is type A personality employees. What qualifies me is I was managing type A personalities, a first-line supervisor in mid-level management back in the 80s, and I've been doing it for 15 years with the sheriff's office, and still currently do. And of course, through all those, we've been sent through schools and learned how to do things. The one thing that we have to remember is that our generations change, and what people need from their jobs change. Okay, what attracted people to stay and be attracted to their positions now is different from when it was when my father started in the workforce. And we have to understand that, right? And if you look at my staff, you will see 3 different generations of people, and you have to respond to all 3 types of generations. The one thing he has to do, you have to remember who you are, where you come from. You cannot change who you are as a human being. You have to understand that be comfortable in your own skin and talk to people the way our parents asked us to be respectful to folks, and understand the tools that our classes have taught us on how to manage folks, and to listen. Okay? And train folks, be there for them. You can't always choose with them, because the people of this county come first, and our policy becomes first, but you can take them along with you and get them to see the true feeling of public service. It's not about me, it's about our community. And you can bring them along. Sometimes it takes long conversations, but you can do that.
Thank you very much. Sure, absolutely. The sheriff is responsible for more than 800 inmates in the jail per night, as well as almost 400 employees, and what I was told at least is a budget of $40 million. What experience do you have managing a budget and supervising employees? In short, what qualifies you for this job?
Yes, ma'am, thank you. So, yes, ma'am, you are correct. The actual budget of the sheriff's office is a total of $41 million. But there's 2 separate budgets at the sheriff's office. One of them is completely allocated towards the jail, which is $18.7 million, just for the jail facility. The other $22.3 million is allocated towards the administration and the patrol, the CID, the investigative unit, and basically the rest of the department is $22.3 million. Half of that budget, or roughly half of that budget, is allocated towards manpower and salaries and benefit packages for the employees. As far as how am I prepared, obviously, ever since I announced that I was running for sheriff, even prior to then, I knew that the budget at the sheriff's office was going to be one of my main priorities. And I took that serious. I've attended the budget hearings during Commissioner's Court because I'm interested and I want to know what the current concerns are at the sheriff's office. Obviously, I'm a Republican here, and I'm certainly a conservative. And I intend on running the sheriff's office budget that way. Being a good steward of your tax dollars, accounting for every one of your tax dollars, and making sure that you receive the service that you pay for with your tax dollars.
Well, I had a little bit of budgetary experience. I've lived it. The 7 years I was in narcotics, there was nothing that we done that was not sanctioned by my captain, who ended up being the chief deputy when Sheriff Wagner made sheriff. And then when I came into the administration division, I was fortunate enough to be brought into that side of it, working on the budget, helping put the budget together, and watching the sheriff and the chief deputy administer that budget. And I have to go back to, there was one particular occasion under Sheriff King. I go into his office because of the open door policy he had. I went into his office and I asked him for money to buy something for the troops in the narcotics division. And the first words out of his mouth were, "What benefit is the taxpayer going to get out of this?" Well, my mind's on taking care of my troops. So I had to stop and really go back and say, well, let me think about this. If my narcotics unit is safe, that means that the people out on the street are safe. But that still wasn't good enough. He wanted more information as to how I wanted to spend that money and what I was going to buy with it. And eventually I got to buy it, but it was still one of those, and that's the key thing for me, is that it's always about what is the taxpayer going to get out of any money we ask for, and how is it going to play into our budget. I think my time's up.
It is. All right, new question. New question, and on this one, I'm going to start with you, Bo. I have heard from many employees within the county that have stated the reason they don't openly and verbally support a candidate in this race is that they fear for their job. How do you plan to work with those who have openly supported another candidate if you are elected?
Any current sheriff's department employee that is willing and able to adapt to our new culture and is willing to operate at a high level and is comfortable with the new set of expectations that will exist under my leadership, is willing to do these things, it will be welcome in the department, regardless of what sign you have in your yard.
You know, I've been through many election cycles with Sheriff King and then with Sheriff Wagner, and not everybody was on the same page. And I respect that. Everybody has, you know, their own thought process as to who they want to support. And even in this current election here, there's people at the sheriff's office, there's 3 different camps, is what we call them. And there's some for Bo, and there's some for Richard, and there's some for me. I can't help it that the ones for Bo and for Richard are wrong, but I'll take that. But they are more than welcome to stay if they want to when I'm elected sheriff. We spend a lot of time, effort, and money training these people. I would hate to see anybody that thinks they're going to lose their job just because they had his sign or their shirt on and not mine. Okay? Most of these people, I have worked with these people for years. They just have a different idea as to what they want to see the department go in, and they're more than welcome to stay if I'm elected sheriff.
I think I answered this a while ago, right? All those folks, if they have stayed within policy and the employee disciplinary guidelines, they are still there. They're worthy employees, and they are there making a living and raising their families, and we have to respect that. And my approach to that is this: I know who supports me and the other folks at work. It doesn't stop me from saying hi and hugging them, and because you know what? It's past that. What we do for a living is past that. Politics is something different. What we do, it's not about politics. What we do is a service. Okay? It is a service, and I'm doing that service with people that may be wearing someone else's cap or have somebody else's yard sign, but that's not how I judge them. It's their performance. And see, that's what you expect, and that's what I expect, because sometimes things are not just walking around the office. Sometimes things are dangerous. And every employee there needs to know, and the reason I don't go around and try to talk to folks at work is because you need to be comfortable in your skin, comfortable in your employment, and that is the reason that we're going to explore civil service, so that in the future, it doesn't matter who the sheriff is, you can exercise all your rights as long as you perform well. Civil service gives you some protections from some of the good old boy or the authorities that the law gives the sheriff now. And our people are good people. They're fantastic people. And they deserve our support. And if it's just to look the other way because they wore a hat, man, that's not asking very much from us, is it? To get that service from them, because they're going out there every day and their family deserves that. Thank you.
New question, and I'm going to start with you, Mr. Ryan. All right. What do you think are the biggest barriers to attracting and retaining deputies? What are your thoughts about restructuring of the compensation plan within the department?
Well, first of all, let me answer the part about the restructuring of the compensation plan. I think because of the fact all of the funds for the sheriff's office on the payroll, that comes from funds that Commissioner's Court actually provides from your tax dollars. And I understand what they're trying to do. It's like, they're trying to make sure that they're getting their dollars worth, because they have to answer to y'all about why their taxes are so high and why they're, when they go in for a payroll increase, there's a lot of y'all that call them and want to know why are we doing this? From a standpoint of trying to attract new officers and keep and retain the ones that we have, it's not always about that big of money. I mean, in some instances, yes. The private sector out here, it was crazy. One of our $25 an hour deputies can go out to the plant and make $37.50 an hour. That's hard to justify him not leaving, because, and I'll tell you this, my whole time when I was in the criminal investigation division, I was happy I was on there, because normally I worked Monday through Friday, unless I was on call. I literally worked an extra job since 1986, every weekend, to make money to even try and attempt to take my wife and my son somewhere. And that's what they have been having to do. They're constantly working extra jobs. They really don't want to go out there and work those kind of jobs. But obviously they need to if they want to try to provide anything for their family. Now, I'm not saying that the issue over payroll won't come up again. I'm trying. I see it. I'm getting the devil eyes. Okay, anyway. Yes, the devil eyes. So, thank y'all very much.
Same question. What do you think are the biggest barriers to attracting and retaining deputies? And what are your thoughts about restructuring of the compensation plan within the department?
You know, at times we have employees that are on WIC. That's sad. At times we have employees who's put their children on their insurance and he's making $25 an hour, but he has to pay $800 a month out of his insurance to put his family on the insurance plan, and the insurance plan doesn't cover the entire cost of 2 of his children's asthma medication. And they're working a lot of side jobs. They're trying to make up for that. And we lose people to strokes and heart attacks and injuries and exhaustion. You don't see that in the paper, okay? We don't talk about that a lot. Since 1992, I have had a side job up to the minute I started this campaign. Sometimes 3 side jobs. What we have to do is this, if we can get to a civil service position, we can get our voice out to the people. If the Commissioner's Court understands where they're coming from, then maybe the money will come to them and they can get the same type of pay that some of the other larger agencies are taking, because this job takes a toll on your body. It takes a toll on your mind too, if you look at us, right? And those, yeah, you lose your hair. They did, I didn't. But they need to know that we appreciate them and we need to treat them as such. And if we do anything, we need to make sure that when we're covering their children on their insurance, that they can get their kids to the doctor and they can get them treated. And I think we have to sit down and have very adult conversations with our court to try to mend that. Thank you.
Mr. Strong?
So as far as the retention and the attraction of the employees, we will certainly place a large emphasis on the morale, the camaraderie, and the well-being amongst the employees to make this a place where you are excited about coming to work. I feel that after we focus on the training and the education of our officers and employees, this will also allow them or encourage them to want to stay with our department for one, but it will also send the encouragement and it will be contagious to the other officers. They'll see how we're being treated, how we're being trained here at the sheriff's office, and then that will be attractive to not only the new officers that are coming out of the academy, but also other officers from other agencies, and maybe officers that will transfer here into this area to come to work for our county. And as your next sheriff, it will also be my responsibility to work closely with the Commissioner's Court to ensure that the compensation plan stays very comparable to where it is. Folks, the Sheriff's Office does not get paid horrible. $25 an hour is probably one of the top 2 or 3 throughout the county. It's very comparable. And we need to ensure that we stay on that rate and that we stay with the employee plan and everything else that the county provides. And we make sure that whenever the insurance premium goes up, that also, our cost of living goes up and all that. But I do feel like our Commissioner's Court has got us to a good position currently as far as pay goes.
Staying along the same lines as the pay question, new question, given budget constraints, what ideas do you have to stretch taxpayer dollars and still deter crime? We're going to start with you on this one, Mr. Ryan.
Wow, stretching zero from zero is pretty much a zero. There's not a lot of fluff in our budget. In fact, the last several times when being part of the budget process, except for this very last one, there is no fluff. There's nowhere to, we buy patrol cars because we need them, and it takes so long to get them, so we buy next year's fleet is being bought now, because it'll take months for those to come in. Stretching the dollars as it is, like I said, there's just not a lot of fluff. There's really not a lot of room to stretch. I know that the payroll issue, we might be able to use that to actually, going back to Commissioner's Court and getting them to authorize us to use the funds that are not, every time we have an employee that we can't seem to hire, well, those funds don't stay with us in regards to paying for overtime, because somebody has to be in those patrol cars. So anyway, that's, we just don't have a lot of fluff in there. We don't buy exorbitant things. We don't buy fancy decals for the cars. The inmates work on our patrol cars as much as possible. So, that's, we do a lot of savings out of that. So, and we have our own mechanics. So, I don't really know where we could actually stretch any more to fight crime any better than what we do.
Thank you.
Can you go ahead and repeat that question? I want to make sure I hit all the points that you asked.
Why, of course. Given budget constraints, what ideas do you have to stretch taxpayer dollars and still deter crime?
As we mentioned in the budget earlier, obviously, I think most taxpayers will agree that they want their money to be used wisely. And that is certainly something that I will put a priority, to be a good steward of your tax dollars, allowing that every dollar is accounted for. If we need to trim the fat somewhere, we certainly will if we can. But I bet you everyone out here will agree that even though you are a taxpayer, you're very concerned where that money goes. But I don't think any of us in here will give up our safety for a shortage for law enforcement. If anything, you'd probably be willing to pay more to ensure that your safety is intact.
There's not a lot of fluff. And you have to explore the grants that are out there. Problem is now the grants are being cut back. There's not a lot of grant money out there now for some of the things that we're going forward with. The government kind of tightening the noose on the availability. But what can we do to help deter crime under that budget is there's a thing called the internet. It's pretty cool. And it is pretty cool. Now, you can do community education projects and put it on your website, and folks can go to it and learn how not to become victims of crime. How not to become a victim of debit card abuse, how to protect yourself, how to secure your residence. You can do these little videos and you can put them on there, and people can go and they can learn how not to become a crime victim. Okay? We have to explore those sort of things that we have at our ability and just think outside the box. And if you do one video and it stops one person from becoming a crime victim, then it's worth it. Right? And those are at our fingertips, and we need to explore them because the monies are not there. The money's just not there.
All right, this might just be our final question to you guys before we kick it to you for your wrap-ups. So this one I am going to start with. Who hasn't gone first? Everybody has, really. We'll start with you again, Mr. Foreman. The Brazoria County Animal Shelter is operated under the Sheriff's Department. Current policies do not allow pets to be adopted from the shelter. Pets are only available to be pulled by rescues, and rescues and volunteers are provided limited access in the shelter. What would you do to improve the plight of animals housed in the animal control facility?
You know, animal control is a situation where the sheriff doesn't have full and complete control. Whether it be budgetary or some of the decisions that are made, like where the new facility is gonna be. There's an engineer's department that helps decide those things along with the commissioner's court and the budgets. And the district attorney's office civil division gets involved in some decisions in reference to, what can we and can we not do. I do know that under Sheriff Wagner, when he started allowing the rescues to get the animals so that we didn't have to take as many animals' lives, that those people are working very hard and they're saving a lot of animals. It will take your breath away for what used to happen compared to what's happening now. But there's a difference between an animal control facility and a shelter. And the county does not have a shelter. And the commissioner's court has no design for a shelter. And so the sheriff takes the health department and what the county commissioner's court tells me he needs to do. And he makes the best out of it. He has saved money by rescuing those dogs out to the rescue. He saves money doing that, okay? People feel that the humane treatment of those animals is what our culture is expecting now. And okay? And
It's okay.
so if there's going to be a shelter, that would not be the sheriff's decision. That would have to come back to the court.
Thank you. Well, the same question to you, and I will repeat it again because even I've forgotten it by now. The Brazoria County Animal Shelter is operated under the Sheriff's Department. Current policies do not allow pets to be adopted from the shelter. Pets are only available to be pulled by rescues, and rescues and volunteers are provided limited access. What do you intend to do to improve the plight of animals housed in the animal control facility?
In a growing county, obviously, our changes are our challenges from all levels will also increase, and animal control is no different. It's not an exception. It's certainly a challenge that we're facing at the county. I am receptive and willing to work with groups and agencies to ensure that more and more animals can be returned to safe homes here in our community, or if it is with a rescue program. Like I said, they are currently working with rescue programs, and we're certainly going to continue that. In 2019, 80% of the animals that were taken into the shelter were returned to a rescue or to their rightful homes. We can always increase this number, and if that is looking into the social media network, as far as the social media networking or the adoption component, not real sure what that looks like, but certainly want to explore that idea. So we will always strive to improve that number. I think we'll forever be trying to improve that number and get these animals to the safe home.
That concludes the questions for this round. I will give each candidate a minute or so to wrap up and just wrap up your thoughts on the event. I'm going to start with you, Mr. Foreman. Oh, see, I told y'all you had to keep me honest. Mr. Ryan, apologies.
That's okay. Animal control is a different ballgame altogether. When the sheriff's office received the animal control authority from the health department back in the early 80s, that was because the health department somehow or another was able to convince Sheriff Wagner, and then he was chief deputy, that it would be better for him to take care of this than it is the health department. The reason it falls under the health department is because it is a rabies control only. It was never designed to be a shelter so that people could come and go through the little alleyways and see which puppy they want to try to adopt. It was never ever designed for that. It was rabies control only. Somebody's dog come over to your house and bit your child, you had to keep your dog quarantined or we picked it up. And then it just miraculously morphed into the stray dogs, and then it came to be nuisance dogs. Well, there's nothing else to do with them except the nuisance dogs, we would bring them in so that they wouldn't be out messing with your dogs, your cats, your chickens, whatever. So that's how this thing morphed into, at one point in time, we have a 22 cage facility at this current time, and I know for a fact that the young lady, and she, don't get me wrong, she's done a fantastic job on rescuing these dogs out, and cats, but I know for a fact at one point in time, a 22 cage facility, she had over 60 animals in there. Now, she was doing a good job taking care of them, but number one, she was an employee of the sheriff's office. And number two, she had lots of help because of the inmates that we assigned out there. Part of the reason this is never, in my mind, should not be open to the general public is because we have inmates doing the work out there keeping these animals safe and clean, and we cannot allow the inmates and free world citizens to be interacting together because they are still in danger. Thank you.
Thank you. And my apologies. Yeah, that's exactly. Hey, I already thought of it. Your turn. We're gonna do our closing now? Yes. Yeah, we're gonna go ahead and give you guys a minute or so to wrap up.
At least you remembered me, right? First, I love you, brother. First of all, this is great people show up for this. Glad somebody's becoming an educated voter. Really am, because it matters. I'm glad to see some folks brought their kids out here because you're teaching them the right way. All right? Now, when you select somebody for a position that you're going to give them your vote, select somebody with passion. Select somebody that has the experience that you need for that position. Some people have been achieving, some people have been preparing to achieve. There's a difference, okay? I'm not, well, I'm sorry, brother, but I am not at the end of my career. I'm still 18 years old in my heart. I still have that passion to come to work every day. I still think outside the box. And that's the reason I think the sheriff endorsed me. Nothing is a bigger honor than to have the person that you work for say that you should be the next one. And he did this knowing that I do not think the same way in some issues as he does on some issues. And then I'm thinking to go other directions. But see, he did the same thing when Joe King stepped down and Joe King endorsed him. He did not think the same thing. Because see, we all have our own life experience. And we all know that maybe the boss is, I just don't particularly agree. But we're good employees, right? And we're good loyal employees. And if you don't get anything out of this forum today, know this. Regardless of whichever of us wins this election, you have a fantastic sheriff's office. You really do. We need to evolve so that it can continue to move forward. And we need to have a discussion about getting a mental health hospital to this county so that we can take care of people. I think it says a lot about us when we don't. Thank you.
You too. Oh, I know. I'm giving you an example.
Talk about passion for doing this particular job. There's a point in time I'm gonna tell you this little, I call it a faux pas about myself. When my son was 6 years old, I was promoted to the narcotics division. So for the next 7 years, I was so wrapped up in doing the job for the citizens of Brazoria County in the narcotics division, I literally barely remember his life. And for that, I apologize to him every time I see him. That's the passion I have for this job. I employ every one of you to go do your research. And I'm not gonna sit here and tell you all the sad stories of my life, because that's not why I'm here. That's what drove me here. That's why I'm not ready to give this job up. I think I've got a lot to continue adding to this. I've got the experience to know where we've come from. I've got the experience to know what will work and where we can go with it from here. And I'm asking for your support out of all these are good guys. They're not as good as I am, so, even though Richard has more hair than the rest of us. So anyway, y'all got a tough job to try to figure out who you want to take over for when Sheriff Wagner leaves. So thank y'all for your time, and thank y'all for coming out.
Close us out, Mr. Stallman.
As Richard Foreman said, thank you for coming out here tonight. We sure appreciate you being here. I want to start with a couple of things. There's a lot of things we didn't get to cover tonight, and I was hoping we would, so I'm going to try to kind of cram in a little bit here. As a voter, I hope you have the same question as I do. The other candidates in this race, when they talk about culture change and implementation and these other things, they have been in a command role the last 15 years at the sheriff's office. And they have had those opportunities to do these things and put these things in place. I hope you ask yourself why they haven't. And if they haven't, what would make you believe that they will? Your sheriff, your next sheriff will need to possess forward, positive thinking leadership skills. I will bring that to you. And this is going to require someone who is willing to improve the team culture and inspire the employees to accomplish a common goal. The success of the sheriff's office in the future will be from opening the lines of communication between leadership and the deputies. And this is so we can capitalize on our greatest asset, the department's employees. I am eager to get to work for them as I have listened to their concerns over the years. And please allow me to do so by voting for Bo Stallman on March 3rd for sheriff.
Please thank these candidates one more time. I know they have much to say. I want to underscore that these questions came from our readers, from our fax readers, and some of them, I picked the ones that had the most, that people ask the most often, and so I hope you felt like you got something out of that. Did you feel like it was educational for you? But you can get up and get a glass of water and take a bathroom break as we welcome the candidates for